Hey guys, I'm John Setzler. Welcome back to the Kamado Joe cooking channel. Today we're going to fire up our Kamado Joe Classic and make a couple of loaves of cinnamon and raisin bread. So let's get started. We're going to start out by mixing our dough. I've got a fairly large plastic container here. It's a 6-liter container. And I'm going to start out with 6 grams of active dry yeast. And that's approximately 2 teaspoons. And I'm going to start out with 720 grams of lukewarm water. And that's approximately 3 cups. And I'm just going to let that yeast dissolve in this lukewarm water here for about 10 minutes. While our yeast is dissolving, we're going to mix our dry ingredients together. And I'm going to start out with whole wheat flour. I've got 210 grams, which is approximately 1.5 cups. And I've got all-purpose flour that's 750 grams, which is approximately 5 cups. I've got 24 grams of sea salt, which is approximately 4 teaspoons. And I've got 4 teaspoons of ground cinnamon also. And I'm just going to take my whisk and mix all that together. Okay, after our yeast has had time to dissolve in the water, I'm going to dump that water into my mixing bowl with my dry ingredients. And also, I have here 1 cup of raisins. And I've been soaking these raisins in dark rum for about 2 hours ahead of this. So I'm going to drain this dark rum off of here, and we're going to add those raisins to the mix. We're going to dump those right in there. And then I'm just going to take a hand and we're going to combine all this. And after I get all that combined, I'm going to dump it back into this other container. You can put this in any kind of container you want that'll hold it. But you have to remember that this is a 2-loaf batch and it's going to double up in size as we let this rise. So I'm going to put the lid on this and we're going to let this rise for 1 hour. And then we'll come back for the next step. Okay, I've got my pastry mat out here, but you can use any kind of surface you want. Just put a little flour on it. Get a little flour on your hands, and I've been letting this dough go here for about an hour. It's not quite doubled up, but it's getting close. So what I'm going to do now is we're just going to turn this out onto my floured work surface. And I'm going to keep flour on my hands as well. I'm going to sprinkle a little flour on here. And what we're going to do is just spread this out a little bit. And we're going to fold it over itself a few times. Just like that. Once in that direction, once in the other direction. Then I'll sprinkle on just a little more flour and keep my hands floured, because this is a sticky dough. We're going to flatten it back out again and do the same thing. We're just going to fold it over itself, turn it, fold it over itself one more time, and then hit it with a little more flour. Keep your hands floured, and we're going to repeat that process just one more time here. I'm going to flatten it out. We're going to fold it over itself, and then fold it over itself one more time, and then we're going to put it back in the container. Let it rise up for another hour with the lid on. Okay guys, we've let this rise for another, looks like another hour and a half here. And as you can see, we've really ballooned up here. So I'm going to dump this back out onto my floured work surface. And I'm going to flour my hands, and we're going to sprinkle some flour up on top of this. And I'm going to spread that out, and I'm going to use my dough knife here to cut this in half into 2 roughly equal sized pieces. And then I'm going to take the first one and I'm just going to pull it toward me, and then I'm going to change directions, pull it toward me again, and what we're doing here is we're just kind of tightening up the skin on top. And kind of forming it into a ball, but I want it to be kind of oblong, so I'm going to pull it apart from the sides just a little bit here like that. And I've got 2 regular size loaf pans here that I've sprayed with cooking spray. We're going to set that in there, and I'm going to do the same thing to the other half of the dough. Now I'm just going to cover these loosely with a towel and we're going to let those rise up some more while we get our grill ready. Okay, I've gone ahead and lit the fire in my Kamado Joe Classic, and I've got the divide and conquer flexible cooking rack in place, and I've got the accessory rack in the lower level, and I'm going to set both halves of my heat deflector on that accessory rack. And the reason we're doing that is I want it elevated a little higher because I want the grill to come up to a higher temperature. And I'm going to set both halves of the grill grate right on top here. And today we're going to set up to cook between 425 and 450. And in order to do that, I'm going to leave the bottom vent on the Classic fully open. And I'm going to leave the daisy wheel fully open on the top vent. And I'm going to close the slider about halfway. And as the grill warms up, if I need to cool it down, I'll close the slider. Or if I need to warm it up some, I'll open it a little more. So we're just going to leave it here until we settle in, like I said, between 425 and 450. Okay guys, our grill's up to temp. I'm just a little shy of 425, so I'm going to crack this bad boy open, and we're going to set both of our loaves right on the middle. And what I'm going to do during the first 20 minutes or so of this cook is I'm going to just loosely drape that with foil, just like that, and we're going to cook for 20 minutes and then come back. Okay guys, we've been going for 20 minutes with that loose tin of foil, so I'm going to pull that off, and I'm just going to spin these around 180 degrees, and we'll let these keep cooking probably for another 15 minutes or so. We'll come back and check on them again in about 15 minutes. These are looking real good so far. Okay guys, we've gone for about another 20 to 25 minutes here, and this bread is ready. If you want to test to see if your bread's ready, you can use a skewer or a thermometer or a toothpick and stick it in just like you would with a cake, and it should pull out clean. Or if you want to look at a temperature here, you want to look for about 200 to 205 degrees internally, and we're there on this. So I'm going to take this off and we're going to take it inside. Okay, I've brought this inside. I've got these sitting on my cooling rack, and I'm going to let them cool in the pan for about 5 minutes before we take them out of the pan. Okay, I've let these cool for about 5 minutes, so I am going to lift these out of the pans, and we're going to let them finish cooling on the cooling rack, and we're going to let these cool completely before we do anything else with them. Okay guys, I've gone ahead and decided to slice one of these up. It's not completely cooled yet, but we're going to cut a piece off of here and have a taste. It smells so good, I just couldn't wait any longer. So let's get a taste of this. Okay guys, I'm going to tear a piece off of here and have a taste. That's beautiful. It's perfect. This is a little different from your average cinnamon raisin bread. This is not quite as sweet because this is a lean dough. If you notice, the ingredients we used here are basically flour, salt, water, and yeast with some raisins and some cinnamon. No eggs, no fat, no oil. This is a variation from a book recipe that I have. The book is called Josey Baker Bread. I will give you a link to that book in the video description if you want to follow along. I've learned a lot about baking bread out of that book, and this is a quick version of one of the recipes in that book. So give this a try. Let me know what you think. Join us on Facebook, facebook.com/Kamado Joe. Follow us on Twitter @Kamado Joe. And until next time, this is John Setzler with Kamado Joe Cooking Channel.